Good evening everybody, welcome to the studio this evening. I really do dislike this particular camera, well not the camera, the mount. It just will not sit where you want it to do, and I've just realised I've got feedback on somewhere, so I can now hear myself. Yeah. Let me turn that off, or at least the volume off. There we go. Don't mind hearing myself back, I can cope with it even, it just gets a little bit confusing sometimes. Get rid of that hair, it annoys me. I know the camera can't see it, but it annoys me. Now then. Also, there's a little hat here. Which I will just move this camera again. I'm just going to do that. Well, that. There. Which will shade. Okay, I'm in about the right place. Oh dear. Oh, left and right all over today. Why is that like that? Okay, so I'm going to be doing some more of this. This is a chainmaille dragon scale. Could also call it fish scale, I guess, but dragon scale just sounds more impressive. Band. I don't have enough rings to actually finish it because I only got a couple of hundred and it's going to need at least 350, but it will keep us busy tonight. And I need to swap glasses again. I always forget something on these streams. Usually it's my glasses. Right. Now then, so pink rings. Take these out. Pink rings need opening, and blue rings need closing. We're going to use a lot of them, so let's open this pack as well, which is my only other pack of these rings. So we'll spend a little bit of time opening these. Let's see which of these are already open. You go away somewhere. Right. I don't think I yeah, I did actually. I did open all those yesterday. Yep, so they're all open already. So I will just open these. Just. That sounds nice and simple, doesn't it? Adjust. That's a just. But actually opening them won't actually take all that long. It is opening is relatively fast. Closing is a bit slower. But if I do these all now, then at least we can spend the rest of the stream just purely weaving, because it is likely to take the rest of the stream to weave all these. It's quite a time intensive weave, is the dragon scale, mainly because it doesn't build very fast. And although these are, I think, 1/4 inch rings, because they're sort of at 45 degrees, it only sort of builds up about 1/8 of an inch per row, with 5 rings on a row. Before you get any further, then it takes a while. Now I guess I could have, well in principle I could have done some of this after the stream last night, but or before the stream tonight, but there's two reasons why I haven't done that. One is it kind of, it's part of the craft, and if I do a lot of stuff off camera then it gives a kind of an unrealistic expectation of just how long this stuff takes, because this is all part of it. If you spend an hour preparing rings, then and then an hour weaving, so 2 hours say, then if I only show you half of it, it looks a lot faster. But if I was to do the rings one at a time whilst I was weaving, instead of taking 2 hours, it would probably take sort of 3 or 4. So prepping rings is always worthwhile. The other reason why is I was doing other things before the stream and yesterday after the stream, reading up about PCI compliance. When you start websites, and especially, well, no, websites where you're going to sell something, and I will potentially have things like this up for sale, as well as some of the other art like the pyrography and things like that. I of course want people to pay. It's part of the idea of selling things, is that people pay, of course. And if on the internet, that means credit cards, and to take credit cards you've got to be compliant with certain regulations and things. So now I spent 2 days reading up about that, and then we'll have to make sure I'm compliant. Fun times. See, something as easy as it sounds as setting up a website. It is relatively easy if all you want to do is display things, and that's what most of the website is about. It's about displaying the art that I've done, so that you can look back, and people new to the studio can take a look back at some of the art pieces, and then some of them are available for sale. The jewellery is particularly because they made when somebody wants one, but things like the pyrography, etc., like one-off pieces like that are also for sale. That way I can use the proceeds to buy new stuff, either new art forms or just new materials for the existing ones. Because unfortunately with Twitch, go through quite a bit, relatively speaking, certainly more than before I started broadcasting. So we may end up reverting back to electronic art for a while, because the materials there are somewhat, I was about to say cheaper, but you've got to get the programs in the first place. But once you've got those, and they do, then it's not so bad. And and then hopefully once that's all sorted, because I can only do sort of one thing at once, what I want to then do is, I've got all my past broadcasts recorded, so what I'm going to do is time-lapse them all, because nobody wants to watch this in real time on YouTube, because of course on YouTube you don't get all the chat. So time-lapse it all, put some music with it, royalty free of course, or at least some that I have permission to broadcast, and then make them available on YouTube. But everything in order, I'm afraid. So if you're looking at this and wondering a couple of things, and let me bring that onto just screen while I'm here, is what on earth am I doing? And shall we say, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt about not having read the stream title, or even what's just there. There. I'm making jewellery. I'm making something that ultimately will become a bracelet. I'm doing it using a technique called chainmaille, which is the weaving together or joining together of rings to form the overall thing. And in this particular case I'm doing it using anodized aluminium rings. This particular colour is dark rose, somewhere between a light pink and red, and I'm also using some, actually it is purple, I thought it was blue but it's purple, little tiny purple rings. You'll see more of those in a minute when we start closing those, having finished opening these. So what I'm doing is preparing these rings to speed up the process, and as I'm opening them is making the gap that's already in them wider. I'm using this thing on my finger, which is funnily enough is another ring with slots cut in it, and I can just drop the ring, well, push the ring into the slot and twist. So I don't need to use two pliers, which means this process goes a lot quicker. With the blue rings, they have to be closed to speed up the process, and they do need two pliers to work with, and they'll take a little bit longer to do, but save time now to speed time later, or spend time now to speed time later. So this, well, yeah, it looks like a little, well, it looks a bit like it might be a boring activity. Actually, it's not too bad. It's repetitive, that's for certain, but I can talk to you guys without having to concentrate too much on what I'm doing, which is a good thing. I can tell you about it, and what I might as well do while I'm doing this is, before we get onto the other rings, I can tell you about some of the other things that get done on the stream. Because although we're doing jewellery at the moment, doing some chainmail based jewellery, that is only one of 5 different arts and crafts which I do on this stream. Well, not this one stream, but on the stream in general. I'm not quite streaming for that long to get all 5 in. But there's this, which is jewellery making, generally chainmail techniques. I might add some other techniques a bit later, but I'm having fun with the rings at the moment. Pyrography, which I mentioned a little bit ago, which is the creating images on wood using a heated metal tool, or heated tool. Then we've got punchcraft, which is a bit like a miniature rug. So I use a large sort of comedy looking needle to punch thread through a piece of material to create an image. I do scraper board, which is a material, well, a board which is covered with china clay and then coated in black Indian ink, and you create an image by scraping away that ink in various ways, and you can add colour if you want to it after as well. I do relief carving using hand tools, so little hand chisels, extremely sharp blades, to carve away wood. It's done in a certain way. So carving, a lot of people will think of carving as creating like statues, that sort of thing. Relief carving kind of creates half the statue, so you sort of chip away at or cut away at the wood to leave like a backboard. So it's a bit like if you were carving the pliers here, it would look like they were on the desk, because you'd have the back plane, so you just started with a thick piece of wood, carved away the top, leaving them joined to the back plane. So almost like the things in a picture frame, whatever it is that you've carved. So that's pyrography, that's the scraper board, the punchcraft, the jewellery, and I'm missing one because there's 5. Carving, pyrography, punchcraft, jewellery and scraper board. Okay, I did mention 5. There we go. I always seem to forget one. But each of those comes up in turn. and for the life of me I can't remember what comes up after the jewellery. It is, well, it will either be scraper board, or it will be, no, it won't be scraper board. It'll either be carving, or it will be, where's my scalpel? Pyrography. I'm not quite sure which of the two it will be next, and it may well be a case of just deciding based on the image that I can think of to make using the art form. So if I can think of a good pyrography image, then I may well do that, and if I can think of a good thing to carve, we'll do that one. Now then, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, there's a whole lot of blue here that we need to do. So I'm just doing is just closing these up now. Now, luckily these being 20 gauge close quite easily. They also don't have much of a memory, so they don't move after they've been closed, which is also quite useful, because sometimes some of the larger rings, or the larger thin rings, have a memory effect, and quite often if you close a large ring without trying to remove that memory effect, what it will do is the wire will just gradually relax back, and it will sort of open itself, which of course just means you've got to go back through and to tweak them all again. But of course if you're in the middle of making an item, that can be a little bit irritating. I know a lot of people will start and say things like, does it take a lot of patience to do this? In some ways that's kind of you've got to give a personal answer to that one. Depends on your personality, I'm guessing, but my usual answer is no, it doesn't. Patience is something, or what I consider patience, is something that you need to have when things aren't going the way you want them to go. So you have to have perseverance doing something like this. I mean, I'm here busy closing rings, and I know roughly how many is in the pile, and I'm going to do them all. So kind of need perseverance to keep going, because as you can see, well, you can't see, but there's the pile to close, and that's what I've done so far. So perseverance is needed, but patience, well, patience comes, as I mentioned, when things aren't going right. So if I'm sat here and I'm trying to close that ring that I was just trying to do there, or I'm trying to pick a ring up and I can't, it keeps dropping out the pliers, or I can't quite get it the way I want to hold it, or something like that, then that's when patience comes in. That's when the sort of the irritation factor starts to come into play. But generally speaking, when something's going right, I'm picking these rings up okay, they're closing okay, and not having a particular problem with them at all. Apart from the odd one that doesn't quite want to sit how I want it to sit, then patience just doesn't come into the equation. Might do if I was trying to work out how to. Okay, I'll do it the easy way. These rings, you know, sometimes try your patience a little bit when they get all wrapped up in each other like that. Not difficult to sort of just open a ring to get rid of, you know, get rid of them, but sometimes I'll just for a change just try to use, you know, puzzle techniques to undo the to get them out from amongst each other. It's not closed properly. Try that again. So what I'm I can't really show you because I don't think I can show you. That ring's closed, but there is the gap for it, or what was the gap was just where there's a slight black mark you can see there, just to the right of the light dot. And so what I'm looking for is the fact that well, basically that black mark, or that mark, you can't see. I've closed it properly if that's the case. And sometimes when I do this, I can see right through. I can look and I can see right through the gap. And if I can see through the gap, or I can even sometimes if I can see the gap, it means I haven't closed it properly. So I just need to tweak it. I'm also looking for the two ends to line up exactly as well. So if I look at that and I go, well, I can see they're not lined up properly, so I just have to tweak it. They're still not lined up properly. I can see a slight mismatch, and that's got the perfect. So half the time working with these rings is relatively easy. There is skills involved closing these rings relatively quickly without spending a long time doing it. Understanding how to do the weaves, but generally speaking they're skills that are relatively easy to pick up, and then it's just practicing those skills to increase speed. For example, that ring is almost but not quite closed. There we go. And some weaves are easier than others to do, so but it's quite I find this quite relaxing to do. Of course it goes a lot faster when people in chat actually talk to you, but I've done enough lecturing in the past to be quite happy with just talking to an unresponsive room. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Welcome to the start of the stream where I just close rings for a reasonable length of time. The more I do now, the less I have to stop when I do start weaving. And then that means the weaving goes faster and is a little bit more interesting. That one's already closed, so I don't need to do that. I guess this is the boring bit to watch though. So how are you today, Fluffy Twiglet? This is looking amazing. Well, I think it's looking amazing, and thank you for agreeing with me. That's most kind of you. It takes a lot of rings though. There's I was about to say 72. There's about 150 rings in that section in total. and it's just over an inch long. So a full bracelet is going to be about 350-ish rings in total, something in that sort of order. And now I think you were here when I started it last night, weren't you, Fluffy Twiggler? It took a little bit of getting going, the first 3 rows, but once it was going, it was a lot easier. In fact, I was thinking about it afterwards. It might have been a bit easier instead of starting it with like a full row like I tried, to maybe sort of started it with just sort of 2 or 3 rings per row, and then once I'd got sort of 2 or 3 rings and 2 or 3 3 rows, sort of then just extended the edge of it, you know, outwards across to add the extra rings in to make it 5 wide. That might have made it a bit easier to do. So excuse me, maybe the next time I do one I'll try using a different starting technique, which might make it easier. But that's the point of practicing and developing skill, is to learn things like that. Okay, what's she streaming then, Fluffy Twiggler? Santanya. Come on, you can't just put a link in there without telling me what the link's for. And when are we gonna get you streaming? Never mind your friend. Bit much when you sort of persuade your friend to stream and you don't do it yourself. And if it's something that's interesting, I shall follow. Tell you what, let's do a bit of weaving on this, because I'm getting bored with just shutting all these rings. Her name is Santa. Okay, Santa NYE. NYE. Why does NYE sound familiar? Drawing a portrait on electronic or pencil? And is she doing it now? Oh, of course. Yep, she is. Unfortunately, I'll follow it, but I can't watch it at the moment. So you're quite welcome to say hello to Santa for me, because I'm assuming you're watching both of us at the same time. Right. So. Pliers, pink, through the blue, cut my nails, so I can't actually pick these blue rings up without the pliers now. Yeah, I did take just a quick look there. Nice orange eyes. But unfortunately, I can't spend the stream watching somebody else. Kind of nice if I could, in a way, but I've got to do my own. I'm trying not to put down the pliers. Oh, let's do it. I'm gonna do that. Okay, you flip back. Thank you. Am I still on frame? Yes, I am. There we go. Well, she I will say she didn't look to be doing too bad with that with the portrait. Sound was down, so I didn't hear what was going on either, but looked to be doing okay. So you are welcome in a little while to remind people about Santa if you want Fluffy Twiddler. I don't mind. Yeah, come on, you're gonna go through. Dear, I need to talk to rings, eh? Anyone that think I was going mad. Little do they know I actually am. Just through, yeah, just through those two, that's it. That was good timing. I just managed to get hold of that just as I let go with the others. No, there's no way I can pick these up with my fingernails, so I shall have to do it that way. And that will go in. Yeah, there. In there. I keep wondering if there's some easier way of picking up these rings, you know, like some sort of I don't know. I was kind of like an automated tube or something that just fed them right to the end in the right place at the right time. And I've made this easier. She's music playing as she's a bit shy. Well, at least that's at least she's broadcasting. A lot of people who do broadcast are shy, including me, which you may or may not believe, but it's true. Part of that is I have learned a long time ago that being shy doesn't really matter. Half the time it's like when you go into people are afraid to walk into a room of people that they don't know if they're shy, and yet they don't know you, so what does it matter? She'll get used to it, and as long as she's not totally silent, then she will quite quickly get used to talking on stream. I take it you have said hello to her, Fluffy Twiglet. Well, this one has always done what it's told to, talking to the bracelet. I mean, even right at, the one that I did immediately before this, a couple of nights ago, and took apart to produce this, that one wouldn't do what it was told. This one has always done what it's told. It's been a good bracelet as this. I was about to say it's my favourite weave, but just about every weave that I do is my favourite weave at the time when I'm doing it. I mean, that candy cane that I did just before this was kind of my favourite. It was a nice, pleasant weave, and it was interesting and what have you. And then, so I've got lots of favourites. I don't think I've found one I dislike yet. I'm not sure whether I ever actually will. I mean, there's some that are difficult. Like this was relatively difficult to start, but once it was going, it's nice. And same with things like the half Persians. They're a bit difficult to start, but once they're going, they're really nice weaves. I actually particularly like these colours as well. If the slightly thicker rings had have worked, so these blue, instead of these purple ones, if the slightly thicker ones would have worked, I'd have been trying this out with some green and orange rings. So that really would have been in sort of keeping with the dragon skin. Yes, of course. Well, I'll tell you what, if she's still not that he'll add much, but if she's still broadcasting when we finish, I'll host her, which I know that won't add many viewers, but it will at least be hopefully expose a few more people to her. But if you're watching me now, feel free to take a look at what's on Santa's doing. I don't mind. I mean, after all, I know most people can watch 2 streams at once, so you don't need to leave me completely. Which does remind me, since you were mentioning Santa with music, that's something that's on my list of to do as well. Some broadcastable music for the background. Why can I? Oh, it is for the background of the stream. needs to go. Cocktail stick. Mind you, it'll move again in a second, but flip that like that. That's it. The problem is finding music that I actually like, that I can broadcast. It's fairly easy to find royalty-free music, for example, but a lot of it is stuff that I wouldn't listen to myself, so I don't particularly want to subject you guys. I was going to say subject. You guys might like it, but I'd have to listen to it as well, and that's so I want to find something I like as well. Of course, that does mean Fluffy Twig that she's got to stream for at least another hour or so. And that's good. You will probably have to remind me of the URL at an appropriate time. This is the frustration when something like that, you drop the ring, and because your pliers were in just the wrong place, so it wouldn't go through. And I've seen these made with bigger rings, and they then of course do progress a bit faster. But I think this is in this particular size is quite pretty. It's a little bit of a statement piece for somebody who wears it, but it's not too ostentatious, I don't think. Come on, rings. You might think you're going to get away. There's absolutely no way on earth you're going to get away. Now that, you go through there. Stop trying to get in the wrong place. I'm onto that trick now. For these big rings, it's actually better to use the wider pliers, but it's kind of a bit awkward getting them in now on this side. The end one's fine because it doesn't join to anything else, but just that one just before this is a bit awkward to do with the wide pliers. So yeah, that's okay. And I now want to hold that in that hand and put a ring on it. Alright, I want to hold that in that hand and put a ring on it. Thank you. Yeah, we took that through there. Some people might think this would get boring because I am literally repeating the same thing time after time after time, but you've got odd things like that happening where I want the ring to go in a particular place, so it just has its own little challenges for each ring, so it sort of seems to be enough to stop it getting you know, stop doing, you know, doing the same thing time after time, not exactly doing the same thing time after time, so it sort of doesn't get boring. It's a little bit of a challenge. I guess if I knew this weave backwards, then I'd probably be doing it a lot easier for a start. But then maybe, and I'd probably be avoiding little frustrating things like that just happening. You are going to go. Well, I suppose I could have done that afterwards, but do it now. I'm talking a bit of rubbish, aren't I? I know what I'm saying, but you don't. And it is almost literally me talking to these rings. Through there, through there. You go out the way. You're trying to get in on the act and you're not going to do it. That one's already put itself on a ring, so we'll leave it there. We'll use that in a minute. If I put that in that space, it kind of just captures it a little bit and stops it popping off. Why is that like that? Let me take that off of there. Something is amiss. Something is amiss. I've got a ring popped out the bottom there. I've also got, oh, that one is meant to be there. That's okay. Why is that one loose? Where's that meant to be? That's meant to be there. Okay. And that's meant to be over the top of it. It is kind of important to, when you see odd things like that, to just work it out if you can. Sometimes it's easier to fix things as soon as you see them rather than to leave them well later, and then you find that you can't actually get at the ring that's out of place, or you can get at it but you can't do anything with it, just because of, you know, the limited space that's available. And then your only resort would be potentially to take the whole thing apart all the way back to the problem and redo that area, which of course, if you were several inches further down in this particular weave, would be a little bit annoying. And if I was several inches down and found that problem back here, I'd take it apart from this end and therefore only have about an inch to redo. But oh, you're doing well. 2 mods. And well, she does have the advantage of knowing you're already Fluffy Twiggler. Hopefully she doesn't need you just yet, though. Of course, that means you'll be deserting me now that you're modding in her channel. Which, in case you're worried about it, I don't mind. If you do want to do that, that's alright. So, pick up a blue, put it on the ring. Why does it feel like I'm doing something wrong? I don't know. It just felt like I was doing something wrong there. I don't think I was, but oh, come on, ring. That's it. I am doing something is wrong. What am I doing wrong? What I'm doing wrong is trying to put a ring where I shouldn't put one. I want those two, I think. You know what? I've completely forgotten what I'm doing here. What on earth? No, that's right. I pick up that one there. Oh God! I completely lost the plot on this weave just then. Fluffy Twiggler, if you want to go over there and exclusively, that's perfectly alright. You know? And yeah, I understand what is. Well, yeah, I would. I understand it can be a bit anxious, and the first, you know, if you get some trolls for the first time, it will be a little bit stressful for her. So having someone like you there that knows how to deal with them will help her enormously. And but just tell her you don't have to be worried by them if she does get them, because after all, they are simple to ban. Right, try that again. If you're wondering, and if you're watching and are wondering who Fluffy Twiggler and I are talking about, we're talking about a friend of Fluffy Twiglet's who is literally is doing her inaugural. That's a long word. Her very first stream on Twitch. Doing creative in the creative section as an electronic artist, and she was doing a portrait when I saw. So Fluffy Twiggler, if you'd like to, it's Santa NYE, but Fluffy Twiggler can post a link and check out, see if you like that sort of thing. If you do, follow. If you don't, obviously you don't have to, but yeah, at least take a look. And of course, feel free to say hello nicely. Don't scare anybody off. You know, we want the creative streamers on here. Thank you very much for that, Fluffy Twiggler. I am getting a lot better at saying your name, you know, by name. It would be a heck of a lot easier if that second letter was an L, but it's not, so. Now I do that, and this one wants the blue ring on. Right, and get back into the swing of this particular weave. I'll do it easy. I'll pick up this one where the ring went on its of its own accord. So I want to take that, pick up that. Oh dear, when I get the ring on they come off. There we go. I'm looking at this and I was actually just thinking then, because I'm going to have to order some more rings, and I'm hoping that the rings come with the same shade. But the thought just occurred to me, of course, there's no reason why actually it has to be the same colour. I mean, I am going to make it the same colour, but you know, to do a bracelet like this, there's no reason why it couldn't be sort of a colour and then switch to another colour and so on, so you get like stripy type of effect. It might look quite good. It might not as well, but oh dear, these rings are now ever since I said they were good and they were better than they're starting to play up, you know. They're getting a bit big-headed maybe of these rings. Either that or Murphy's walked in the door, and whenever Murphy's around, something's gonna go wrong. I've been a bit finicky with this, like putting that in that place there before I close the rings, but I don't actually have to. And it probably would be a little bit quicker for me if I wasn't quite so finicky about it. That end ring is still trying to get in on the act. No, thank you for that, but I mean, you chose Fluffy for a reason, and you know, it would be sort of impolite to really to sort of change your name, but thank you for the permission to do so. No. Right. Yeah. So Yeah, just through there. That's no, just through that one. That's it. So I don't know how many people who are watching, but if you're watching and not following, and you're liking what you see, then I encourage you, of course, to push the follow button. That's always nice. You get the notifications from Twitch then when I go live. Doesn't get rid of any adverts, I'm afraid, but you're stuck with those unless you've got some way of doing it yourself. As I have no control over them, but if you just want notification of when I go live, you are of course welcome to follow me on Twitter. Details are below the stream window in case you forget, but it's at @Zoroganart. Come on. Yeah, I'm not. That's okay. And if you're new to creative at all, if you've just dropped in for the first time, welcome on behalf of all the creative streamers. There's quite a few excellent streamers around. Highly recommend you check them out. Drop in at odd times as well. Obviously. If you have the opportunity, because we've got creative streamers from all around the world, so you know their stream times vary, of course, just like the gamers do. And we have some really interesting artists and artists of all crafts around. We've got carvers and glass blowers and model makers and traditional artists, as in painting, electronic artists, music creators, video creators, 3D artists, sculptors, all sorts of things around. You can easily spend quite a long time watching creative. Why is that not going where I want it to go? And I say creative is better than television, so check it out. X may be memories. Oh, maybe memories. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. I'm making, well, ultimately, this will be a bracelet. So that's the width. So it will go like, well, not on me, but it'll go like that. So a bracelet, so it'll be about 7.5 inches long, or in that sort of order. It's made in a chainmail weave called dragon scale. Sometimes gets called dragon back as well, because of that sort of that pattern. I guess you could also call it a fish scale. So for the same reason, it's that that scale looking thing there. Sometimes looks differently from the other side. So that's what we're making at the moment. They're made using aluminium, what they call anodized aluminium rings. And these two rings that I'm using here are in a colour which gets described as dark rose, which is sort of a dark pink or a light red, sort of halfway between red and a pinky sort of colour. And the darker rings, the small ones, are actually purple, but I know the camera's showing them as blue. It's just the camera and the lighting together sort of conspire to make purple and into a blue looking ring. Okay, so I want a blue, so I'm almost out of, I was about to say I'm almost out of blue rings. I'm not actually out of them, but I'll be out of closed versions of them. So when we get to that point, I'll actually have to spend a little bit of time closing up blue rings again. Right. Ah dear. Maybe memories you've found. Yeah. Well, this is the very well. Okay, I shall make a slightly misleading statement, and that is, this is the first time I've ever done this weave, so I am enjoying it, and I think it looks really good. So I kind of agree with you. I'm quite a fan of it in that respect. It's a slightly misleading statement because I've actually tried this piece 3 times. First time I used rings which turned out to be not as suitable as I thought they might be, and the second time I just tied myself in knots. When you first start this weave, for the first couple of rows it's challenging, shall we say, to just keep it all together in a way which you can understand what's going on, and I managed to mess it up, so I had to take it apart and start again. But I'd only done about 2 rows, so that's why the statement "this is my first weave" is a first dragon scale is a little bit misleading, but it's not that far off. And thank you, Fluffy Twiggler, for that. I keep losing it, losing just what it is I'm supposed to. That one goes just through that one. I keep wanting to feed it through the, every alternate row is well, every alternate row is identical, but the different, no, the 2 adjacent rows are slightly different. One has got 4 pink rings on it, the next one's got 5, and then it's 4 and 5, and I keep forgetting just exactly. You would have thought by now, having done this length, and there's probably about 15 rows on here, I'd be quite easily remember what it is I'm doing, but I occasionally just keep forgetting, and I look at the end of a row, at the start of a row, and go, just what on earth am I supposed to do with this? as I just did then, but it doesn't take me long just to look at it and go, ah yes, but this is a lovely flexible one as well. This is a sort of well, all the weaves are the sort of weave where I just play with it. Just the feel of the fact that it sort of is flexible, and just sort of bends and actually sort of compresses as well. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Let me just get that back where it's supposed to be, and put that blue ring that I've just dropped off back on. And close it up so that it's I mentioned about things getting a little bit frustrating. So it's a really flexible weave. It sort of bends quite nicely, but this one you can sort of do that with it as well, and sort of tighten it up a little bit, so it sort of, you can play in all sorts of directions with this. It's lovely. Oh, I don't mind if you judge it. You know, if you're an expert at doing this, I'm sure it comes naturally. Yeah, it is a simple. Once it's going like this, it is a simple weave. It is just purely sort of, you know, sieve memory. I can sort of you know, try and excuse myself. You know, I'm broadcasting. I'm also talking at the same time, as well as, yeah, I just forgot. You know, it's there's kind of only two ways that the first ring goes on. It shouldn't be hard, but I'm an old man, you see. The memory fails. Right, I'm about to run out of blue rings, but it's not a problem. No, you get out of the way, thank you. You're trying again, aren't you? You're not going in there, you're going there, thank you. Put that on there. And another pink ring. How long have I been working on this piece? 3.5 hours in total. So it's taking its time. It's the relatively small rings. These are I think they're quarter inch. Yeah, quarter-inch rings. So because they're stood on they're kind of stood on their end. They're stood at an angle. It doesn't grow as fast as some weaves, and we've got 4 or 5 rings. Well, 5 rings across. So it sort of grows about 1/8 of an inch for every 5 rings that I put on. So it does take a little. Well, it takes a fair bit of time to do. But nice effect for it though, and that's kind of it. The more complex and the beautiful the weave, the longer they often take to put together. Right, I need to now close some more blue rings. If I close them, now it's a bit easier than doing them one at a time whilst I'm halfway through the weave. It does mean I just have to sit here for a little while and just go through doing this. Come on, friend, pick up the rings. These are 0.8mm diameter wire, so they're quite small to pick up. And actually, you notice I wear glasses, they're actually quite difficult to see as well, even with the glasses on. It's not so much the ring, but I'm looking to close the gap between them, and they're really highly shiny, and I've got quite a large, relatively speaking, light just above me here, and I'm seeing reflections in the wire because it's shiny, and the reflection looks a little bit exactly the same as if the ring hasn't closed properly. So I keep looking at it and having to look at it again. And of course I'm trying my best to make sure they are closed properly. Because that helps. When you're wearing it, it means you don't feel any little tiny scratches from wearing it, as you might do if everything hasn't closed properly. Maybe memories, thank you very much for following. That is most kind of you, and I really do appreciate you doing that. Thank you very much. Crazy K 1997, welcome to the studio. Thank you also for following. That is most kind of you. As I just mentioned, to Maybe Memories, I do appreciate you doing that. It's fantastic to know that people want to follow and come back and see what's going on. Thank you for that, Maybe Memories. Yeah, that's okay. What time is it now? I've got another half hour yet. Fluffy Twiglet there has done that with my permission, in case anybody's wondering. That's actually another streamer on Twitch, who I gather is still streaming at the moment. That's a friend of Fluffy Twiglet's called Santa, who is streaming for the very first time on Twitch, and she's streaming some electronic art. She's doing a portrait. I don't know if it's a self-portrait or a portrait of somebody, Fluffy Twiglet, but mind you, whoever it is, when I saw the portrait would have had bright orange eyes, but I know that is quite likely to have changed. So that's feel free to check out Santa, and if you like what Santa's up to, then obviously follow her. If you don't most of the I think most of the creative streamers sort of quite easily understand the fact that if you don't like what we're doing, then you don't want to follow, and it's as simple as that. Okay, I've done a few of these because I kind of really do understand if you're watching. This is not the most riveting of things to watch, is me closing rings, so I shall weave a few more, and we may then have to do some more again. just something she's making up. Oh, well, that's not bad. Then if she was making it up, it certainly looked at the stage. Well, I assume at the stage she was at that I saw, it looked quite realistic. So, other than the bright orange eyes, but there again, you never know these days. What with contact lenses and things like that, people do sometimes have things like bright orange eyes. Yes, I am doing this. No, yes, yeah, I am. You see, there's only two things this first ring can be, and I'm still hesitating, working out if I've done it right. So I've lost, there we go, 2 rings off of that. So there are times when you're doing this that sometimes, just sometimes, now that goes through there before I close it up and do it wrong. Fantasy characters, okay. Fantasy as in just made up, or fantasy as in sort of, you know, I suppose things like Lord of the Rings or stuff like that, which is kind of fantasy stuff. Right. This time you're not going to escape. Alright, the next time you're not going to escape. You're going on. You're staying on. You are not going to drop. You're not. I'm holding tight. You're not going to go. See, I told you. Right. Now then, one of those has to go over there. Like that. This is all because I said the rings were doing well. You know, they were being nice. They were doing well early on. I am sure they've got, you know, these rings have got sort of an inner troll. Which they let loose occasionally. See what I mean? Fairy tale. Okay, yeah. Well, I will, let's say she's still streaming when I've finished. I will drop in and have a look. I don't think I've dropped rings quite so many times as doing this, and it's really just because I'm just trying to get it in a particular position, and I'm just trying to get in a particular position, and the ring just keeps popping out. There we go. Sometimes you don't actually have a lot of space to get hold of things, and the fact that this is sort of just, you know, wobbles like that, if you see what I mean, is sometimes is making this a little bit more awkward. On things like smaller width chains, you don't have the problem of no, which end was that at? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, I've just done this end here. Okay, so that must be that. Yeah, when you pick up a smaller chain, it tends to hang straight, and therefore, you know, the gap, it points straight up, and you can put extra rings on quite easily. This, of course, is hangs at an offset, and that kind of means that when you get hold of the ring, which you usually do just by the gap that's there, as you can see, it sort of moves such that it kind of closes up the available space. So if you're trying to put a ring on, it has a tendency just to fall off. There's nothing really holding it in place. Right, that's going to go over there and just go, hey, I remembered this time. In theory, that's the easiest ring of the whole lot to put on, because it just goes through one ring and you drop another ring into place with it. Generally speaking, I try not to hold the rings as tight as absolutely possible when you're doing it, because it is always possible to sort of scar the surface of the ring if you squeeze it too hard. It is aluminium, so it's quite a robust metal, but if you apply enough force, and you can do that with some of these pliers, that you can sort of just dull the surface a little bit, which of course is something you don't want to do. But you do risk the problem there, the converse problem of occasionally dropping it. You stop trying to get in on the act. You go over there. Okay, we'll put that one there. You do sometimes end up with your wrist bent to some really funny angles occasionally trying to do this. So if you're sort of ambidextrous, so can manipulate pliers with your feet, you probably do quite well. So that's going to go there, which means I want to go through there and I want a blue ring on it. So welcome to everybody that is lurking in the background. I know some of you are, that's quite alright. Thank you for watching. If you're watching and you find you're wondering what's going on, I would suggest looking at the stream title, but or even what it says just to the left there. But anyway, what you're looking at is me making jewellery using a technique called chainmaille, which is weaving rings into a pattern. This particular pattern is called dragon scale, or sometimes dragon back. I'd kind of also describe it as fish scale, but maybe that's a different weave altogether, I don't know. But that's what it is. These are anodized aluminium rings, so they're quite lightweight. Each of these pink or dark rose rings, as they're called, are a 1/4 inch internal diameter, just to give you some sort of idea of scale, because sometimes, especially with a zoomed in camera, that can sometimes be difficult to sort of guess scale, even sort of looking at my thumb. But they're a 1/4 inch diameter. So this thing is about 1.25 inches wide, because there's a maximum of 5 rings side by side. And it's probably something in the order, well, just over about 1/8 of an inch thick, because of the rings are sort of laying at a 45-degree angle. And the blue rings, actually, which are literally inside the pink rings, are also laying at 45-degree angle, but the other way. And that's kind of how this thing all holds together. And they are, what size are they? They are 0.81mm diameter wire, and they are 4.1mm, that's 5/32 of an inch internal diameter. So they're not the smallest rings I work with, but they're not large. Actually, the fact that they're 20 gauge or 0.81mm actually means that they are, relatively speaking, easier to work with than others at times, than thicker ones. Just because with them being thin wire, there's more space around them. And talking of them, I'm going to need to close a few more. So what we're probably about 2 inches there. If I use the right end of the rule, well, oh dear, I did not want that to happen. Let's see, yeah, we are 2 inches, well, maybe a bit more, 2.25 inches. So that's rings all over the place, including some that shot off down there, which I will look for later. I'm not about to go looking for them now. That's one reason why what I ought to do with this is actually have the rings on something like a felt, no, not felt, what do you call it, like a beige, I can't actually think of the thing I'm thinking of now, but not felt, material, so that things like that doesn't tend to make them scatter all over the place. Felt isn't any good for doing it, because felt is sort of random fibres, so just matted together, and the rings, obviously, especially these fine ones, have an open space. So on something like felt, they'd get caught in the felt, and it would be somewhat of an annoying thing to have to sort of unwind them all from the felt while you're trying to weave. I'm trying to think what it is, but a material like beige, what that is the fibres actually all stand straight up like a carpet, if you like, but they're there's kind of nothing for the rings to catch in. Come on, rings, there we go. So just closing them, which is a twist and a pushing together action. If I just twisted them, there would be there'd be a slight gap, which is where a very fine saw was used to cut them. So there's a very fine gap if I just closed them, twisted them. So what I do is not only twist them but push them together slightly to actually close up that gap altogether, and then it virtually becomes invisible, or in some cases it actually becomes invisible, at least to my eyes. Not so much, well, I've not done it on these little tiny rings because I've not actually had to open any really, but on some of the big rings, for example, like these pink ones, I have closed it, and I've spent about when I've needed to open the ring again, I've had to spend about 5 minutes looking for the join so that I can twist it. If I twist it at the wrong place, of course, it just won't open, because you're not trying to twist where the opening is. So sometimes the gap can be almost perfect. Let's do a few more times it. Okay. Just do another couple and then we'll weave a little bit. So we'll go back to weaving. You go in there. Right. So this one just goes through there. That's not closed properly. Come on, there we go. Push together. Oh, that's it. And now I can't even see the join, which is the idea. Okay. In there, right. Pick up. You're trying your best not to squeeze these things too hard, and there are times where you're not really squeezing it hardly at all, and it just sort of twists in the pliers, and just goes all over the place. Dropping these little blue rings is a little bit frustrating. Now I've got one. Where's that supposed to? Oh, that's over there. Okay. There's no way that's closed properly. There we go. That one is. And that is just through those two like that. And we now go through, and that's going to go through there, so I want a blue ring on it to start with. I want a blue ring on it to start with. There we go. And the blue ring goes on it now. And then we close it. Dear me, yeah, you go through there, that's it. Sounds like my voice is starting to go. I've had a... Well, I got some sort of infection a week, well over a week ago now. Oh, come on, ring. And it's been affecting my voice for a little bit now. So my voice is starting to go a bit low. It's almost as though it's coming back, actually. Knowing me, I've probably caught a cold or something. I have a tendency to do that if I have an infection of some kind, like a little bit of a cold or a sore throat. I'll then catch a cold. Right. You'll twist on me, won't you? Okay, so let's pick you up like that. That goes through those two rings there. Pick that one up there, and we'll put a blue ring on top of it. And we'll then close it. and drop that in there. And we take this ring, put that through there. Stop playing up ring, thank you, through there. And that one wants closing again. Put that on the end of it. This ring here, I can see the gap through it, so I just want to tweak it a little bit more. That's it. And that goes in there like that. Well, I've got 5 blue rings left, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we'll leave that as it is for tonight. Now if I can do this without dropping the ruler again, let's have a look at, so we almost at 2.5 inches, almost. There's the no, it's about 2 1/4, isn't it? About 2 1/4 inches there, which I'm sure somebody's going to ask or wonder what that is in centimetres if you are European inclined, or even UK inclined for that matter. So we're about 5.6 centimetres. 5.6, yeah, something like that. So it's not a bad length. You see, it's a relatively slow one, just purely because of the quantity of rings across that go up to make that length. So one of these days I'm going to try making a ring. I don't know which weave you make it out of, but I'm going to try making a ring. That should be quite fun. So that's sort of what it would look like as a cuff, so to speak. So one of the so what I'm going to do, oh, that's interesting, is say, if you're watching and not following, then of course I would be grateful if you did follow. That's if you want to. If you don't, of course, that's quite alright. If all you're interested in is knowing when I go live, then you're quite welcome to follow me on Twitter. Details are below the stream window. They'll also be on the end plate when you see it, which won't be for long. It's at Zaragan Art anyway. It's fairly easy to remember. If you'd just like to catch me on my next stream, which will be tomorrow night, it will actually be in 22 hours. Or for a bit simpler maths, 8 o'clock was 2 hours ago. So that time tomorrow night. In the meantime, if I can actually get my window to pop up, what I'm going to do is I am going to host Santa. Not the fellow with the red jacket and fluffy white collar and things, but a friend of Fluffy Twiglet, who is doing her first ever stream tonight, and she's doing some electronic art and doing a fantasy portrait, which is looking quite nicely now, and those orange eyes are somewhat piercing, so we recommend you check her out. I'll be hosting her, so it'll come up in a moment, but don't forget, if you actually want to chat to her and say hello, then you will need to be in her chat, not mine. In the meantime, thank you all very much, and I'll hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye bye.